Hi everybody and welcome to Get Indie Gaming. As some of you regulars to the channel will now be acutely aware, I'm a huge fan of puzzle games. I always have been and find them an immense source of satisfaction. I've usually one or two of these on rotation at any moment, as I find them really easy to dip into and out of, say while on the bus ride into work, or sat in front of the TV where there's something on the box I'm not really bothered about. The same holds true for couch co-op party games. Give me an Overcooked or something like Everybody Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, and I'll happily play away with a group of pals or buddies for hours at a time. Now give me a game with both of these elements and you have a fine mix to keep me really happy, which is the premise for today's video review. Now I first clocked onto Degrees of Separation towards the end of last year, and together with A Fold Apart it tops the list of co-op heavy games I'm looking to play over the first quarter. I played this one on the Switch with a day one gifted launch copy of the game, taken from the eStore as provided by the publisher for review purposes. Degrees of Separation sees you play as two contrasting souls, Ember and Rhyme, each having power over summer and winter respectively. These powers link directly into the core mechanics of the gameplay, with a barrier between the two protagonists either warming or freezing the player's surroundings. One simple example of this sees a water section where Rhyme walks ahead of Ember, thereby turning the water to ice, thereby allowing Ember to cross this particular section. Other instances of this include Ember's ability to use her power of warmth to cause lanterns to rise platforms, or Rhyme's rather fetching skill to roll giant snowballs over the terrain to help gain access to sections previously unobtainable. While you can play this in single player, alternating between the two characters via press of the button, I've no doubt by design Degrees of Separation is at its best when played in local couch co-op with a pal or buddy as you work to communicate with each other to solve the various puzzles. Actually, while I think of it, the single player is easier to play than in co-op, although it's not as much fun, simply as you don't have the particular communication issues and what the heck are you doing sort of moments to deal with, which really help make this what it is. It's worth noting though, as this review goes out, there is no online co-op. For me that's not an issue these days, while I rarely venture into the online games with randos, although perhaps this feature might be added at some point in the future. For the record, much of my time with Degrees of Separation was spent over the course of a weekend with my 8-year-old son. While he's a dab hand at Mario Kart, where I honestly can't defeat the little so-and-so, even though I'm really trying, this is pretty much the first puzzle-centric game he's had the chance to play. Actually, in truth, I spent much of our playthrough sitting back, letting my boy work out what we had to do. Occasionally I needed to suggest things we might want to try to solve the puzzles, although for much of the time, with one or two big difficulty spikes aside, he got things as they needed to be for us to progress, with a little thought and experimentation. At times I did struggle with the controls, as did my boy. While they are very simple with a jump or activate mechanic, they often feel imprecise, woolly even, to the point of being disconnected from the input to the controller to the action that you see on the screen. There's also more than a few instances where the game demanded a level of exact character placement in the platforming that seems a tad harsh and unforgiving, and in these instances, Degrees of Separation goes from being somewhat of a joy to actually a rather big pain in the backside fairly quickly. What doesn't disappoint is the game's art style and overall atmosphere. That said though, the character animations, well, they can look a bit odd at times, although this really doesn't impact how it all plays. The key thing the team have got right though is how the world looks and changes, moving from the warmth and the cold sections. This could have been clunky, and yet in this implementation, well, the transitions are buttery smooth. As for the overall story, I don't consider this to be too much in the way of spoilery, although from an overly slow and plodding opening, it quickly moves into a popcorn tale of love which I could take or leave, and some of you no doubt will find it up there with a right blue on the cheesy side of things. Hey, after all, this was launched on Valentine's Day, so there's a message going on right there. That being said, I'm able to let this wash all over me with little or no bother. As for how long this takes to play, I'd estimate this equates to a good 10 hours or so of playtime. I did, however, really go to town with everything it offers. Perhaps if I took a lighter touch I could have rattled through it in maybe 5 or so hours. Although much of the fun I had here came from playing with my 8-year-old, who in turn didn't want to stop playing it. Now I assume this was genuine. He's pretty headstrong, and if he doesn't want to do things, like tidy his room or help out with the household chores, he's fairly capable of switching into teenager levels of sulkiness with little or no effort. If you are looking for a game to while away a good number of hours and you fancy something of a puzzler that can, and I'll argue should be played in local co-op mode, Degrees of Separation is something to take a further look at. Will I play it again? Well, possibly, but only if my boy wants to go back in and have another look. Having nearly solved all the puzzles and found most of the secrets, I can see little incentive to fire it up again. The prospect of future online play affords me zero joy, although I can see how in others this might be something to really look forward to, although it's just not for me. I enjoyed this one. I like my puzzlers, I like my couch co-op, and as should be apparent from what preceded this, I rather liked much of what Degrees of Separation had to offer. I would have appreciated a firmer and more engaging and solid control scheme, although altogether, this left me with fond memories of my first long weekend spent gaming and puzzling with my little boy, whom I suppose, having recently turned 8, isn't so little anymore. And there we go, that's it for today. If you want to see more reviews, please let me know here in the comments, and perhaps hit that like button and share this over your social media. That would be of course hugely appreciated, and if you haven't, why not subscribe today and click that notification bell to stay up to date on all other indie game reviews, countdowns and more. Many thanks as ever for watching, and I look forward to welcoming you all here again soon for more indie game videos.